Hello and welcome back, adventurers. This is Captain TTRPG, and today we're talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Hello and welcome back, adventurers. We are back, and today we're moving away from the occult and towards some uplifting performance. Performance is all about entertainment, getting people on your side, and keeping that evil lord from killing you and your allies for just another minute or so, assuming he likes song and dance. With performance, there is one untrained action and one trained action available at level 1. As always, there are plenty of feats you can take, though, that build off of these actions and do some of their own things. So let's go ahead and dive in here and see how we can use performance with charisma to bring the light and the fun. Starting off with our untrained action, we have perform. One action. Apparently you're entertaining people in 2 seconds, which is really kind of impressive. Anyway, you make a performance check. This simply helps or hurts the audience's attitude toward you that could influence any future diplomacy checks. There's no specific outcome for this other than that. So don't be looking for this for like a broad mechanical benefit or fascinating people or anything like that. Nothing like that comes with perform. Then we have our trained action, which is something that a lot of skills, well, at least several skills have, which is earn income. So this is something you do during downtime. You can, of course, perform at various places to earn income. So it can be a nice way for you to gain money whenever you've got downtime on an adventure. And that's it. So far, this is actually the least mechanically beneficial skill that we've discussed. But let's see what we can do with some skills. Kicking it off with fascinating performance. This is level 1, takes trained. When you perform, you make a check against the will DC of one creature, fascinating it for 1 round on a success. This has to be a crit success if you are in combat, though. So the fascination otherwise on a success only works outside of combat. And it gains the incapacitation trait as well. So against boss creatures, you're not going to be pulling this off at all. Also, after attempting this, a creature is immune for 1 hour. If you are expert, you can choose 4 creatures at a time. Master can choose 10, and legendary, you can choose as many as you want to. So it does have some broader applications, especially out of combat. Impressive performance, level 1 trained. You use performance rather than diplomacy to make an impression, assuming the creature watched you perform, that is. So if you perform for at least 10 minutes, you can do this with 10 audience members. If you perform for an hour, it's 20 members, and if you perform for 2 whole hours, you can do this with 50 members. So if you're terrible at diplomacy and great at performance, this is a way to get some people on your side. Virtuosic performance. This is level 1, trained. You choose one type of performance from a list. You can see the list here on screen. When performing, if you perform in that way, you get a +1 circumstance bonus to the performance, or a +2 if you're at least master in performance itself. So really get good at that one skill. Distracting performance, level 2 now, 1 action, requires expert. You create a diversion using performance instead of deception, and if you succeed, or better, the benefits apply to an ally instead of you. So you're creating a distraction for somebody else. The effects last until the end of the ally's next turn, unless, of course, they do something that causes it to end early. Juggle, this is uncommon, level 2, requires a dex of at least a +3, and you have to be trained in performance. You can juggle an item until the end of your next turn, unless you want to keep it going, and then you can keep using the actions to do so. You can also use an action to add in another item that you're juggling. You can wield a weapon while juggling as well. So juggle has a lot of interesting benefits going on with it, and is kind of a weird use, but is also a very interesting and potentially powerful use in certain situations, I think, if you really want to build around it. But I think it would take some sneakiness and possibly some talking with your GM. Performer's treatment. This is rare. Level 2. Requires expert in medicine and performance. And I talked about this during medicine, but I'll give you the recap here. Basically, when you crit fail a medicine action, you can make a performance check against the recipient's perception DC, so against your allies most likely. And if you succeed on that performance check, then that crit fail on the medicine check becomes just a failure. You're basically tricking them into thinking it's not that bad. Triumphant Boast. This is rare, requires level 2 and expert in performance. When you perform, you make a performance check against one creature's will DC. If you succeed, you get a +1 to your next demoralize against that creature before the end of the next 24 hours. The number of creatures is 4 if you're master, or any number if you're legendary. The circumstance bonus is also a +2 if you have a +5 in charisma and at least master in performance. So you can really get a nice little boost from this, and being able to potentially boost up an intimidation check can be valuable. Inflame Crowd. This is uncommon, level 7, requires master, and you have to have impressive performance. You can make a request of one member of a crowd when you make an impression using performance. This request also uses performance. So remember, a request takes that check as well. Then we have Master of Apprentice. This is uncommon, level 7, and requires master. When you earn income and somebody else is earning income using performance as well, you can aid them. Then, if you succeed, the other creature can use your outcome instead of their own for earning income, which can be really helpful if you're doing this with a party member. Talent Envy, rare, level 7, expert, and requires virtuosic performer. Once per minute, if you succeed at a performance check with your performance style of choice, you can demoralize an onlooker as a free action. If you crit succeed your performance check, you increase your result of demoralize by 1 step. That is a very cool combo. And Legendary Performer, this is level 15, Legendary obviously, and Virtuosic Performer once again. Basically, you've gained renown based on the type of musician or actor or whatever that you are, and creatures with enough society skill just simply know who you are. You pull larger crowds, have an easier time earning income. There's no direct mechanical benefit, but it's really cool if you do a lot of downtime, and it can just be a really nice piece to round out your character from a roleplay perspective. Performance is definitely heavily focused on downtime activity and, of course, influencing people around you. There is some combat application with some of the interactions with Demoralize, and it can be used with the Perform action in some instances. The classes that easily take advantage of performance are those that, of course, have Charisma as their primary ability score, so your Bards, Oracles, Sorcerers, Summoners, and Thaumaturges. Certain Psychics and Rogues, of course, also fit the mold. Bards are trained in performance at level 1 for free, but they are the only class that is. For the GMs out there, yes, it's true that this is mostly a downtime skill. So try and make sure that the player is able to use it, if possible, during downtime. Even if the numbers don't exactly line up, they don't have enough time to do things normally, maybe adjust things so that they can at least find some way to use this skill that they're dumping a lot of points into to get value out of. Also, if they're leaning into performance, and you think that this player character thinks it only applies outside of combat, make sure that they're aware of what some of these skills do. I know there's not a lot of combat application in here, but there is little stuff you can do that ties into demoralizing, a little bit you could possibly do with perform. So at least make them aware, even if they don't want to use it. And you know what? Maybe they'll find some fun way to integrate it into the play a little more regularly than I think they might be able to. And there we go. With that, it's time for me to work on my juggling, which of course I will never get good at. And as always, adventure on.